The emergency alarm echoed through the massive halls of the Galactic Council Station. Red lights flashed on every wall as beings from across the galaxy rushed toward the main chamber. Commander Jehoiakim walked slowly through the chaos, his black uniform standing out among the colorful robes and strange bodies of the alien representatives. Jeho had been stationed at this floating city for 3 years now. As Earth's military observer, he mostly sat in boring meetings and filed reports that nobody read. Today felt different. The aliens looked scared, something he had never seen before. The chamber doors opened with a deep rumble. Inside, hundreds of aliens filled the curved seats that rose up like a stadium. At the center, a large holographic display showed star maps with red zones spreading like infection across several sectors of the galaxy. Ambassador Sora Park entered behind Jeho, her silver hair tied back in a neat bun. She had served as Earth's voice to the galaxy for 15 years, even though most aliens barely listened to human concerns. Today, every eye in the room turned to watch her take her seat in the small human section. "The session will begin," announced a tall, crystal-like being. This was High Kristarch Velyon of the Vithek Empire. His body sparkled with inner light. But today that light seemed dim and flickering. Captain Taman Lee slipped into the seat next to Jeho. His scout ship had just returned from the Outer Rim, and dust still covered his brown jacket. "You need to see what I found out there," he whispered. The lights dimmed, and the central display activated. A 3-dimensional map of a galaxy appeared, spinning slowly. Large red areas marked dead zones where star systems used to exist. 6 months ago, Velyon began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber speakers, we detected unusual readings from the outer spiral. What we found defies all understanding of warfare and conquest. The map zoomed in on a sector that should have contained the Heimel system. 5 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and a yellow star. Instead, there was nothing. Not debris, not gas clouds, not even cosmic dust, just empty space. "The entire system is gone," continued a new voice. This came from Ambassador Zixmore of the Moreland Collective, an insect-like creature whose multiple arms gestured at the display. "Not destroyed, not conquered, gone as if it never existed." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Jeho leaned forward, his training kicking in as he studied the tactical display. Something had consumed matter itself, leaving perfect spheres of emptiness in space. "We sent investigation fleets," Zixmore clicked. 3 separate expeditions, each with our best ships and crews. None returned. Not even emergency signals. The display changed to show another empty region. Then another, and another. 12 star systems, all perfectly removed from existence. "What did this?" called out a representative from the back of the chamber. High Kristarch Velyon's light dimmed further. "We call them the Devourers. We have no other name because we know almost nothing about them. They appear without warning, consume everything in a system within days, then move on." A new image appeared on the display. It showed a dark mass moving through space, roughly the size of a small moon. The thing had no clear shape, seeming to shift and flow like liquid, but it moved with clear purpose toward a populated world. "This recording comes from the Kef system defense satellites," Velyon explained. "It is the only visual data we have recovered." On the screen, the dark mass approached the planet Kef 4, home to 6 billion Rillan colonists. As it touched the atmosphere, the entire world began to dissolve. Not burning or exploding, but simply ceasing to exist, as if reality itself was being eaten. The chamber fell silent. Even the usual whispers and small movements stopped completely. "How many systems have been lost?" Ambassador Park asked, speaking for the first time. 17 confirmed, replied Zixmore. But the pattern suggests they are accelerating. Early attacks were months apart. Now they happen every few weeks? What countermeasures have been attempted? Ho stood up, ignoring the surprised looks from alien representatives, who were not used to humans speaking in council sessions. Velyon's crystalline form seemed to shrink. "Everything," The combined fleet sent 200 warships to intercept a devourer mass near the Tychon system. The entire force was consumed in less than an hour. Planetary defenses? Taemin asked. Useless. No weapon we have fired has had any effect. Energy beams pass through them. Missiles are absorbed before impact. Even nuclear devices leave no mark. The display showed tactical recordings of various battles. Jiho watched with growing interest as he saw the devourers simply ignore all attacks while consuming ships, planets, and even the local star. It was like watching someone trying to fight the ocean with a sword. We tried negotiation, added a gaseous representative whose words came through a translation device. The Keth Collective sent our best diplomats and linguists. The devourers showed no recognition of communication attempts. Evacuation? Sora asked. We have saved some populations, Velyan admitted, but the devourers are moving toward the galactic core. If they continue at this rate, they will reach the major population centers within 2 years. Billions will die. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Representatives argued about fleet movements, resource allocation, and evacuation procedures. Jiho noticed that none of them talked about actually fighting the devourers. They had already given up on winning. Silence. Velyan's voice boomed. Through the speakers. The crystal being's light flared brighter as he regained control of the session. When quiet returned, he continued with obvious difficulty. There is one more matter to discuss. The reason humans have been asked to attend this emergency session. Every alien in the chamber turned to stare at the small human section. Jiho felt the weight of hundreds of eyes, some curious, others hostile, most simply desperate. 34 years ago, Velyan said slowly, this council voted to exclude humanity from membership. The reasons were clear. Humans were considered too violent, too unpredictable, too willing to use extreme measures. Sora's face remained calm, but Jiho saw her hands tighten on the armrests of her chair. We believed, Velyan continued, that human military thinking was too primitive and aggressive for civilized galactic society. We thought we had evolved beyond such brutality. The crystal being paused, his light flickering weakly. We were wrong. Not about human nature, but about whether we would ever need that nature. Faced with an enemy that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be negotiated with, and cannot be stopped by conventional warfare, we find ourselves in need of unconventional solutions. Zixmore stepped forward, all 4 of his arms spread in a gesture of supplication that Jiho recognized from diplomatic training. We are asking for human assistance in this crisis. We need your military expertise, your tactical thinking, and yes, your willingness to use methods that we have previously found. Disturbing. The chamber fell silent again. Jiho looked at Taemin, who raised an eyebrow. They both looked at Sora, waiting for her response. The ambassador stood slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. You cast us out for being too warlike, she said. You told us we were too violent, too dangerous for your peaceful galaxy. Now you want us to wage your war. She paused, looking around the chamber at the frightened faces of beings who had once looked down on humanity with disgust. Very well, but understand this clearly. When humanity fights, we do not fight to win battles. We do not fight for territory or resources. We fight to end wars completely, permanently, with no possibility of the threat returning. Her words hung in the air like a promise and a warning. If you want our help, you will get all of it. Every weapon, every tactic, every method we have developed in our violent history. But once we begin, we will not stop until the threat is completely eliminated. Are you prepared for what that might mean? The silence stretched on. Finally, High Christarch Velyan's light pulsed once. We are prepared to accept any solution that ensures our survival. Ambassador Park smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we will help you. God help us all. The elevator descended deep into the earth, passing through layers of rock and steel that had been carved out over decades. General Haijin Choi stood with her hands behind her back, watching the numbers count down, level 50. Level 100. Level 150. The United Earth Defense Council met in the deepest bunkers ever built, designed to survive planet-killing weapons. Today, those precautions seemed wise. The emergency session had been called within hours of Ambassador Park's message from the Galactic Council station. The elevator stopped at level 200. The doors opened to reveal a corridor lined with armed guards and scanning devices. General Choi walked through the security checks. Her 4-star uniform crisp despite the long journey from Luna Base. The main chamber stretched out before her like an underground stadium. Representatives from every major military command sat in curved rows facing a central podium. Earth Defense Force, Mars Colonial Guard, Asteroid Belt Mining Security, Deep Space Patrol. Every human military organization had sent their best leaders. Admiral Bio Ra Yoon stood as General Choi entered. The head of the Solar Defense Fleet was known throughout human space as the woman who had ended the Titan Rebellion with a single devastating strike. Her gray hair was pulled back severely and her blue eyes held the cold calculation that had made her famous. General? Admiral Yoon nodded. The briefing materials arrived an hour ago. Every person in this room has read them twice. Dr. Kyung-Soo Han looked up from his datapad near the front row. The lead xenobiologist had spent 20 years studying alien psychology and military tactics. His thick glasses reflected the light from the central displays as he processed the information about the Devourers. "This is beyond anything we have prepared for," Dr. Han said quietly. "These entities do not follow any known pattern of warfare or expansion." General Choi took her position at the central podium. Around her, the faces of humanity's military leadership waited for answers. These were people who had fought wars across the solar system. From the ice fields of Europa to the corporate fortresses of Ceres, they had seen brutality and conquest, but nothing like what the aliens described. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Choi began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber speakers. 60 hours ago, the Galactic Council asked for our assistance against an enemy they call the Devourers. Based on the intelligence we have received, this threat represents a level of danger we have never encountered. The main display activated, showing the tactical data that Captain Taemin Lee had gathered during his scout mission. Empty regions of space where star systems had once existed appeared as perfect spheres of nothingness. "Dr. Han, please present your analysis." The xenobiologist stood and activated his own display. Charts and graphs appeared showing attack patterns, timing, and the complete lack of traditional military objectives. "The Devourers do not conquer," Dr. Han explained. "They do not occupy territory or harvest resources in any way we understand. They consume matter itself, converting it into energy for reproduction and expansion." A colonel from the Mars Defense Force raised her hand. "What about their numbers? How many are we facing?" "Unknown," Dr. Han replied. "Each attack involves what appears to be a single large entity, but these entities seem to spawn smaller versions of themselves after consuming enough matter. The reproductive rate is exponential." Admiral Yoon leaned forward. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, can these things be negotiated with?" "No, the aliens tried every form of communication known to galactic science. The Devourers show no recognition of intelligence in other species. To them, we appear to be nothing more than useful matter to be consumed." Silence fell over the chamber. General Choi had expected this reaction. Humanity had fought many wars, but always against enemies who could be understood, negotiated with, or at least anticipated. "What about their military capabilities?" asked a general from the Outer Colony Defense Corps. Dr. Han switched his display to show combat recordings. "Every conventional weapon has proven useless. Energy weapons pass through them without effect. Kinetic weapons are absorbed on contact. Nuclear weapons leave no visible damage. They do not fight in the traditional sense," he continued. "They simply advance and consume. Ships, planets, stars, everything becomes part of their mass." A voice from the back of the chamber called out, "Then how do we fight something that cannot be hurt?" General Choi stepped forward again. "That is exactly what we are here to determine. But first, we need to understand what we are really dealing with. She activated a new display showing the tactical situation across the galaxy. Red zones marked devourer activity, while blue zones showed the remaining alien civilizations. The aliens have lost 17 star systems in 6 months. Their combined fleets, representing dozens of species and thousands of years of military development, have been completely ineffective. She paused to let that sink in. They have asked us for help because they know something about human military doctrine that they find disturbing. We do not fight the same way they do. Admiral Yoon stood up. General, with respect, what makes us different? We use the same basic principles of warfare that have existed for centuries. Do we? General Choi asked. Colonel Park, tell us about the Martian Independence War. A weathered officer near the middle of the chamber stood. We fought a 15-year insurgency against colonists who knew the terrain better than we did. They had better defensive positions and popular support. How did we win? We didn't try to defeat their military forces, Colonel Park replied slowly. We made it impossible for them to continue fighting. We targeted their supply lines, their communication networks, their ability to recruit new fighters. We attacked the war itself, not just the enemy. Exactly, General Choi nodded. The aliens fight battles. They send fleets to engage the enemy in combat. When that fails, they retreat and try different tactics. But the fundamental approach remains the same. Dr. Han adjusted his glasses and looked up from his notes. General, are you suggesting we approach this differently? I am suggesting we approach this the way humans have always approached existential threats. We do not try to defeat the enemy. We try to make the enemy cease to exist. The chamber grew quiet as the implications became clear. During the corporate wars, General Choi continued, we did not capture enemy facilities. We destroyed them so completely that rebuilding became impossible. During the AI uprising, we did not negotiate with the rogue systems. We hunted down every single artificial intelligence and eliminated them from existence. She walked slowly around the central podium, making eye contact with the military leaders. The aliens see war as a tool of policy, something to be managed and controlled. We see war as a problem to be solved, permanently. Admiral Yoon nodded. Slowly, you are talking about total warfare. I am talking about total commitment, General Choi corrected. If we agree to help the aliens, we do not send a few ships to assist their fleets. We do not provide technical support or advisory roles. She stopped walking and faced the assembled leaders. We mobilize every resource, every weapon, every person capable of contributing to the war effort. We study the enemy until we understand them completely. Then we develop methods to eliminate them so thoroughly that the threat can never return. And, if that is not possible? Asked a general from the Europa Defense Command. General Choi smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we make sure that when we fall, we take them with us. That is what makes us different from our alien friends. They fight to survive, we fight to win. Dr. Han looked up from his data pad again. General, the psychological profiles of the various alien species show that they find human military doctrine disturbing precisely because of this attitude. They are afraid of what we might become if we fully commit to warfare. They should be, Admiral Yoon said quietly. We should be. Afraid too, General Choi nodded. Fear is appropriate. But fear of the devourers should outweigh fear of ourselves. The question before this council is simple. Do we help them? The voting began immediately. Electronic displays showed the results as they came in. Earth Defense Force? Yes. Mars Colonial. Guard? Yes. Asteroid Belt Command? Yes. Deep Space Patrol? Yes. Within minutes, the decision was unanimous. Then we are committed, General Choi announced. Admiral Yoon, I want every shipyard in human space converted to military production within the month. Dr. Han, I need complete psychological profiles of the devourers based on their attack patterns. Everyone else, prepare your commands for total mobilization. She paused at the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, We are about to show the galaxy what human warfare looks like when we are truly motivated. God help anyone who gets in our way. 6 weeks had passed since the vote, and human space had transformed into something unrecognizable. Colonel Su Jin Yang stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Earth, watching endless streams of cargo ships move between the planet and the massive construction sites that now filled nearby space where peaceful trade routes once carried goods between colonies. Military convoys now transported weapons, ammunition, and the raw materials of war. Every civilian factory had been converted or shut down. Every research facility now worked on military projects. Even the schools had changed their curriculum to include basic military training and war production techniques. It is remarkable how quickly they adapted, said Ambassador Velyan of the Vithek Empire. The crystal being had arrived 3 days ago to observe human preparations. His light had grown dimmer each day as he witnessed the scale of the transformation. Colonel Yang turned from the window. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Psychological Operations Division, a unit that most aliens had never heard of because they could not imagine warfare that targeted the mind rather than the body. This is how humans respond to existential threats. She explained, we do not partially mobilize. We do not hold anything back. Every person, every resource, every capability gets focused on solving the problem. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see children working in the orbital factories. Not forced labor, but voluntary participation in the war effort. Kids who should have been playing games instead learned to assemble ammunition and communication devices. Your children build weapons? Velyan asked, his voice carrying notes of distress. Our children build the future, Yang replied. They understand that if we lose this war, they will have no future at all. A transport ship docked at the station with a deep vibration that traveled through the deck plating. Colonel Yang checked her schedule and nodded. The design team is here. You wanted to see human innovation in action. They walked through corridors bustling with activity. Engineers hurried past carrying technical drawings. Military officers studied tactical displays mounted on every wall. Supply clerks coordinated the movement of materials with the efficiency of a machine. The main conference room had been converted into a design center. Chief Engineer Donghyun Park stood at the center of a holographic display showing a new type of warship. Unlike the elegant curves of alien vessels, this ship looked brutal and functional, like a hammer built for breaking things. The Devastator class. Heavy assault ship, Engineer Park announced as they entered. Designed specifically for fighting enemies that cannot be reasoned with. The hologram rotated slowly, revealing weapon systems that made Ambassador Velyan's crystal form flicker with alarm. Massive missile tubes covered the ship's surface. Energy weapons of unknown design protruded from armored housing. Most disturbing of all, the entire front section seemed designed to separate from the main ship. The forward section is a kamikaze pod, Engineer Park explained casually. Equipped with antimatter warheads and enough armor to penetrate enemy defenses. The crew compartment ejects before impact. You build ships designed to destroy themselves? Velyan asked. We build ships designed to destroy the enemy, Yang corrected. If that requires sacrificing the ship, then that is acceptable. Engineer Park activated another display. This one showed swarms of small drones, each no larger than a human fist. Self-replicating hunter-killer drones? They use matter from destroyed enemy units to build more copies of themselves. What stops them from replicating endlessly? Velyan inquired. Built lifespan limits, Park replied. After 72 hours, they self-destruct. We learned from the AI wars not to create weapons that could turn against us. Yang walked around the holographic displays, pointing out features that demonstrated human military thinking. Every system has multiple redundancies. Every weapon has backup targeting systems. Every ship can function even after losing half its components. A new officer entered the conference room. Captain Yoonji Kim commanded the experimental stealth destroyer Silent Thunder, a ship so advanced that even its existence was classified. Her dark hair was cut short in military fashion, and her eyes held the focused intensity of someone who had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in human space. "Colonel Young, the first field tests are complete," Captain Kim reported. "The stealth systems work better than expected. We were able to approach within 50 kilometers of the Devourer mass near the outer rim without detection." Velyan's light pulsed with shock. "You sent ships to engage the Devourers?" "We sent ships to study them," Yang replied. "We cannot fight an enemy we do not understand." Captain Kim activated a tactical display showing her recent mission. The Devourers are not uniform entities. They have what appears to be a command structure, with smaller units receiving direction from larger ones. The display showed detailed scans of a Devourer mass consuming an asteroid field. Instead of random feeding, the creatures moved with clear coordination and purpose. "This suggests they can be disrupted," Engineer Park observed. "If we can identify and target the command units, we can create chaos in their ranks," Yang finished. "Exactly what my division specializes in." She walked to another display that showed psychological warfare techniques adapted for non-human enemies. "Traditional interrogation and propaganda are useless against the Devourers, but fear and confusion are universal concepts. How do you frighten something that consumes entire worlds?" Velyan asked. Yang smiled, and the expression made the alien representative take a step backward. "We make them uncertain. We attack in patterns that seem random but follow deeper logic. We make them question their own perceptions." Captain Kim nodded. "The Silent Thunder is equipped with holographic projectors that can create false targets. Imagine a Devourer mass moving toward what appears to be a rich planet, only to discover it is consuming empty space. Psychological warfare against a species' mind," Engineer Park added. "Brilliant." Through the conference room windows, they could see more ships under construction. Hundreds of vessels in various stages of completion filled the orbital shipyards. Each one incorporated lessons learned from studying the Devourers and human experience fighting unconventional enemies. "How many ships will you build?" Velyan asked. "As many as necessary," Yang replied. "We have converted every shipyard in human space to military production. Mining operations on asteroids now focus entirely on materials for ship construction. Colony worlds contribute their entire industrial output. Your entire civilization is at war," the alien observed. "Our entire civilization is focused on ending a war," Yang corrected. "There is a difference." A communication alert sounded throughout the station. Admiral Bio Ra Yun's voice came through the speakers with an announcement that had been anticipated for weeks. "All personnel, the first assault fleet is prepared for deployment. 5,000 ships will depart for the front lines in 6 hours. This represents the largest military force in human history." Yang looked at Velyan, whose crystal form had grown very dim. "Would you like to observe the departure?" They returned to the observation deck as the massive fleet prepared to move. Warships of every class formed into precise formations. Supply vessels loaded with ammunition and replacement parts took positions between the combat ships. Medical frigates equipped with surgical bays prepared to treat casualties on an industrial scale. "This is not how civilized species wage war," Velyan said quietly. "No," Yang agreed. "This is how humans solve problems that threaten everything we care about. The aliens asked for our help because they knew we were capable of this. Now they get to see what that capability actually means." The first ships began to accelerate toward the jump points that would carry them to the front lines. Their engines lit up space with brilliant flares that could be seen from the planet's surface. "Admiral Yun is leading this fleet personally," Yang explained. "She has never lost a battle. What if she loses this one?" Yang's expression grew cold. "Then we send 10,000 ships with the next admiral. And if that fails, we send 20,000 with another admiral. We will continue until either the Devourers are extinct or humanity is extinct. There is no middle ground?" "There never was," Yang replied. "The Devourers made that choice when they started consuming inhabited worlds. Now they get to live with the consequences." The last ships of the fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying humanity's promise of total warfare to the edge of known space. Behind them, the shipyards continued working, building the next wave of vessels that would follow if the first fleet failed. Vel Jan watched the empty space where the fleet had been. We may have made a terrible mistake, Yang nodded. Yes, but it was not asking us for help. Your mistake was waiting so long to ask. The Kepler defense line stretched across 3 star systems, representing the last organized resistance against the Devourer advance. Admiral Biorai Yun stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the alien fleet formations through the main display. Hundreds of ships from 6 different species had gathered here, their elegant designs reflecting centuries of civilized warfare. The human fleet arrived like a storm. 5,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their brutal designs a sharp contrast to the curved and decorated vessels of their allies. The aliens had prepared defensive positions and battle plans that assumed the humans would integrate into their existing command structure. They were wrong. Admiral, Commander Jae-Sung-oh reported from his position at the tactical station. The alien commanders are requesting a joint strategy meeting. Admiral Yun studied the defensive positions the aliens had prepared. Classical tactics designed to make the enemy come to them while minimizing their own losses. It was the kind of thinking that had led to 17 destroyed star systems. Send my compliments to the alien commanders, she replied. Inform them that we will not be participating in defensive operations. Lieutenant Colonel Minho Chun looked up from his intelligence briefing. The Special Forces operative had spent the journey studying every scrap of data about Devourer attack patterns. His lean face showed the intensity of someone who specialized in impossible missions. Admiral, they are not going to understand our approach, he warned. Then we will educate them, Yun replied. Commander O, prepare the reconnaissance fleet for immediate departure. Ma'am, where are we going? To find a Devourer-controlled system and attack it directly. The bridge fell silent. Even the human crew, trained for the most aggressive tactics in known space, seemed shocked by the boldness of the plan. Dr. Young-hee Kim, the combat psychologist embedded with the fleet, activated her analysis station. Admiral, every species that has attempted direct engagement with the Devourers has been completely destroyed. Every species that has attempted direct engagement has fought like them, Yun corrected. They sent fleets to win battles. We are going to send a fleet to gather intelligence. Within hours, the alien commanders arrived aboard the human flagship for an emergency meeting. The conference room had been designed for human military efficiency, with plain walls and functional furniture that made the colorful alien representatives look out of place. High Christarch Velyan's light flickered with agitation. Admiral Yun, we have prepared defensive positions that can hold the Devourers for months while we evacuate civilian populations. Defensive positions are irrelevant, Yun replied, studying the tactical displays. The Devourers do not attack military targets. They consume everything in a system regardless of its strategic value. Zixmore of the Moreland Collective gestured with all 4 arms. Then what do you propose? We attack them first. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the ship's life support systems. That is suicide, whispered a gaseous representative. Of the Keth. That is intelligence gathering, Yun corrected. Commander O, explain Operation First Contact. Jae-Sung-oh activated the central display, showing a detailed plan that had been developed during the journey to the front lines. We will take 200 ships to the Vega 7 system, which was consumed by the Devourers 3 weeks ago. The display showed the empty region where a thriving colony had once existed. Our mission is not to win. Our mission is to learn. Every ship is equipped with advanced recording equipment and quantum communication systems. Lieutenant Colonel Chun stepped forward. We expect to lose most or all of the reconnaissance fleet. But the data they gather will be transmitted instantly to the main force. The alien representatives stared at the humans with something approaching horror. You are planning to sacrifice 200 ships and their crews just to gather information? Velyan asked. We are planning to sacrifice whatever is necessary to understand the enemy, Yoon replied. That is how wars are won. Dr. Kim activated her psychological analysis. Based on devourer attack patterns, they show signs of collective intelligence. They learn from each engagement and adapt their tactics accordingly. Which means, O continued, that every failed attack by the alien fleets has made them smarter and more dangerous. But it also means, Chun added with a cold smile, that they expect attacks to follow logical patterns. They have never faced an enemy willing to gather intelligence through deliberate sacrifice. The meeting broke up with the alien commanders returning to their ships in a state of shock. Within the human fleet, preparations for Operation First. Contact proceeded with military efficiency. Commander O selected volunteers for the reconnaissance mission from among the most experienced crews. Every person who volunteered understood that survival was unlikely. What surprised the alien observers was how many humans stepped forward. Why do they volunteer for certain death? Velyan asked Dr. Kim during a private conversation. Because they understand that their sacrifice will save billions of lives, she replied. Humans have a saying, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. But these are strangers, not friends. To humans facing an existential threat, there are no strangers. The reconnaissance fleet departed. 12 hours later, 200 ships, crewed by volunteers, jumped into hyperspace carrying enough firepower to destroy a small planet. Their mission was not conquest but knowledge. Commander O led the fleet from the bridge of Earth's Wrath, a heavy cruiser equipped with every sensor array that human technology could provide. As they approached the empty Vega 7 system, the ship spread into a wide formation designed to maximize data collection. Contact, reported the sensor operator. Large mass detected at the former location of Vega 7 Prime. The main display activated, showing a dark entity roughly the size of a small moon. It moved through space with deliberate purpose, consuming the remaining debris from the destroyed colony. All ships begin recording, O commanded, weapons free. We are going to make this thing fight us. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, railgun projectiles, and exotic weapons filled space with deadly light. For the first time in galactic history, a devourer mass came under sustained attack from enemies who had no intention of retreating. The results were both terrifying and informative. The devourer absorbed most attacks without visible effect, but some weapons caused brief disruptions in its surface. More importantly, it began to change shape and behavior in response to the human tactics. It is learning, O reported through the quantum communication link. The entity is adapting its defensive configuration in real time. The battle lasted 3 hours. One by one, the human ships were consumed as they pressed their attacks with suicidal determination. But every moment provided new data about Devourer, capabilities, limitations, and behavior patterns. Final transmission from Earth's Wrath, the communication officer aboard Admiral Yoon's flagship reported. Commander O reports that the Devourer shows signs of frustration when faced with illogical attack patterns. The last ship of the reconnaissance fleet disappeared into the dark mass, but the intelligence it had gathered changed everything. Dr. Kim analyzed the battle recordings with growing excitement. The Devourers are not invulnerable. They have limitations. More importantly, they can be confused by tactics that do not follow logical patterns. Admiral Yoon studied the data with the cold calculation that had made her famous. They expect enemies to behave rationally, to retreat when facing superior force, to value their own survival above mission objectives. But humans do not always behave rationally, Lieutenant Colonel Chun observed. Exactly, Yoon smiled. We are going to teach them what irrational really means. The alien commanders who observed the aftermath of Operation First Contact were shaken. They had watched humanity deliberately sacrifice 200 ships and thousands of lives for intelligence that might not even prove useful. This is madness, Velyan whispered to his aide, but Admiral Yoon was already planning the next phase of operations. The reconnaissance had revealed weaknesses in the Devourer's behavior. Now it was time to exploit those weaknesses with tactics. So brutal and illogical that even the aliens would question whether humanity was still fighting for the right reasons. "Prepare the assault fleets," she commanded. "We have learned how to hurt them. Now we learn how to kill them." News of humanity's victory at the Torgus system spread through the galaxy faster than the fastest ships. For the first time since the Devour crisis began, an entire star system had been completely cleared of the threat. But the reports that followed the victory caused more fear than celebration among the alien populations. Brigadier General Nari Quan stood in her laboratory aboard the research station New Horizon, studying samples that had been recovered from the Torgus battlefield. The head of the Biological Warfare Division wore protective gear as she examined the microscopic remains of devourer tissue through advanced scanning equipment. "The sterilization was complete," she reported to the holographic image of Admiral Yoon. "Not just the large entities, but every trace of devourer biology down to the cellular level." "Casualties?" the Admiral asked. 43 ships lost, 2,000 personnel. Acceptable losses for complete elimination of the threat. What General Quan did not mention was how those casualties had occurred. The human fleet had not simply destroyed the devourers in the Torgus system. They had hunted down every fragment, pursued every fleeing piece, and then systematically sterilized 3 entire planets to ensure that no devourer material could survive or regenerate. Commander Chen Wuli reviewed the tactical recordings from his command post on the heavy destroyer Death's Head. His assault squadron had pioneered the ghost attack techniques that were proving so effective against devourer masses. The name came from their ability to appear without warning, strike with overwhelming force, then disappear before the enemy could respond. "The psychological impact is working," Lee reported to his staff. "Devourer formations are showing signs of hesitation and defensive clustering that we have never observed before." Dr. Hyen-Soo Park, the fleet's xenopsychologist, had been studying these behavioral changes with growing excitement. The devourers are experiencing what humans would call trauma responses. Their collective intelligence is being degraded by encounters they cannot understand or predict. The strategy was brutally simple. Human forces would attack in patterns that seemed random but followed deeper psychological principles designed to create maximum confusion. A devourer mass might find itself under attack from 6 different directions simultaneously, then have all attackers vanish the moment it tried to respond. "We are not just fighting them," Dr. Park explained to a group of alien observers who had requested a briefing. "We are teaching their collective consciousness to fear the unknown." The alien representatives listened with growing unease. High Christarch Velyon had requested this meeting after receiving disturbing reports about human tactics from the front lines. "These psychological warfare techniques," he said carefully, "they seem designed to cause suffering rather than simply defeat the enemy." General Quan looked up from her biological samples. "The devourers do not experience suffering the way individual creatures do. But their collective intelligence can be disrupted by introducing unpredictable variables into their decision-making process." "What kind of variables?" asked Zixmore of the Moreland Collective. Commander Lee activated a tactical display showing recent battles. "We attack supply formations that do not exist. We retreat from battles we are winning. We sacrifice valuable assets to protect worthless positions." From the devourer perspective, Dr. Park added, "human behavior appears completely irrational. This forces their collective mind to devote increasing resources to understanding our actions instead of focusing on consumption and reproduction." The alien representatives watched recordings of human ships deliberately flying into devourer masses while broadcasting random radio signals. They saw entire squadrons perform complex maneuvers that served no apparent tactical purpose other than to confuse enemy observers. "This is psychological torture," Velyon whispered. "This is warfare," General Quan corrected. "The devourers chose to make this conflict existential. We are simply ensuring that they experience the full consequences of that choice." What troubled the aliens most was not just the tactics themselves, but how efficiently humans had implemented them across dozens of star systems. The infrastructure for psychological warfare had been built and deployed with the same methodical precision that characterized all human military operations. "We have established permanent monitoring stations in 17 systems," Commander Lee explained. "Each station broadcasts signals designed to disrupt devourer coordination. The effect is cumulative. You are terraforming space itself to be hostile to them," observed a Keth representative. "That is an accurate description," Dr. Park agreed. "We are creating an environment where devourer collective intelligence cannot function effectively." The biological warfare component was even more disturbing. General Quan had developed weapons that targeted the specific genetic markers found in devourer organisms. The weapons were designed to spread through devourer populations faster than they could adapt. "The beauty of this approach," she explained, with clinical detachment, "is that it uses their own biological efficiency against them. The faster they reproduce, the faster the weapon spreads." "What prevents these weapons from affecting other species?" Velyan asked with obvious concern. "Careful genetic targeting," Quan replied. "The weapons are keyed to devourer DNA sequences. They are completely harmless to carbon-based life forms that evolved naturally." The unspoken implication hung in the air. Humans had developed weapons that could potentially target any species if they chose to modify the genetic markers. "How long until these weapons eliminate the devourer threat?" asked Zixmore. "Biological warfare is not about immediate elimination," General Quan explained. "It is about creating conditions where the enemy cannot sustain itself. We estimate 18 months for complete effectiveness." 18 months? Velyan's crystalline form flickered with shock. "The war could be over in 18 months? "The war will be over much sooner than that," Commander Lee interjected. "The biological weapons are just one component of our strategy, Dr. Park activated a new display showing psychological profiles of devourer behavior over the past 3 months. "The collective intelligence is already showing signs of breakdown. Decision-making latency has increased by 400%. Coordination errors are becoming common." "What does that mean in practical terms?" asked the Keth representative. "It means they are developing what humans call shell shock," Dr. Park replied. "Individual devourer masses are beginning to act independently rather than as part of a coordinated whole." The alien representatives absorbed this information with a mixture of relief and horror. The devourer threat might be ending, but at the cost of witnessing human warfare techniques that seemed designed to inflict maximum psychological damage. "There is something else," General Quan said quietly. "The devourers have begun attempting to communicate." The chamber fell silent. "They are trying to negotiate?" Velyan asked. "They are trying to understand," Dr. Park corrected. "Our psychological warfare has created enough confusion in their collective mind that they are questioning their own perceptions. Some masses have been observed sending what appear to be query signals toward human positions." "How have you responded?" Commander Lee smiled coldly. "We send back signals that are mathematically perfect but completely meaningless. Poetry translated into mathematical equations. Music converted to tactical data. Historical documents encoded as star charts." "You are deliberately driving them insane," Velyan realized. "We are teaching them that intelligence without understanding is worthless," General Quan replied. "The devourers assumed that consumption equals knowledge. We are demonstrating the difference." The meeting ended with the alien representatives returning to their ships in a state of profound unease. They had asked humanity to save them from monsters, but what they were witnessing seemed like the birth of something even more terrifying. As they departed, General Quan returned to her laboratory to continue developing new biological weapons. Commander Lee prepared his squadron for another round of ghost attacks. Dr. Park analyzed the latest psychological profiles, searching for new ways to disrupt devourer consciousness. The war was being won, but victory was revealing aspects of human nature that even humanity itself had never fully understood. They had asked for help, and humanity had answered with methods so thorough and ruthless that the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, devourer masses continued their advance toward populated systems, but now they moved with hesitation and confusion, their collective mind fragmenting under the weight of encounters with an enemy that refused to behave according to any known pattern of warfare the monsters were learning to fear. The Devourer home system appeared on the tactical displays like a nightmare made real. Two massive stars orbited each other in a deadly dance, surrounded by structures that defied understanding. What had once been planets were now organic factories, pulsing with dark energy as they converted matter into new devourer masses. Fleet Admiral Kite Shin stood on the bridge of the super dreadnought Terra's Judgment, watching the largest military fleet in galactic history prepare for the final assault. 10,000 human ships filled nearby space, supported by mobile shipyards, medical stations, and supply vessels that stretched to the horizon. The alien fleets had arrived expecting a siege that could last decades. The Devourer home system represented billions of years of accumulated mass and energy. Traditional warfare would require slowly wearing down the defenses while evacuating threatened populations throughout the galaxy. Admiral Colonel the Jinha reported from her position at the tactical station. All assault battalions are ready for Operation Cleansing Light. Admiral Shin studied the tactical readouts one final time. The operation that had been planned over months of preparation was about to begin. Unlike the careful, measured approaches favored by alien military doctrine, Operation Cleansing Light would strike every known devourer position simultaneously across the entire galaxy. The scope is unprecedented, observed High Christarch Velion from his position in the observer section. The alien representative had insisted on witnessing the final battle, despite warnings about the dangers involved. The threat is unprecedented, Admiral Shin replied. Conventional approaches created this crisis. Only unconventional solutions can end it. Throughout the galaxy, human forces had spent months positioning themselves near every known devourer concentration. Self-replicating weapon systems had been deployed in thousands of star systems. Biological warfare agents waited for activation signals. Mobile shipyards stood ready to replace losses faster than they occurred. Sergeant Dongwoo Kim checked his weapon systems from the assault pod of the heavy transport Soul's Pride. His squad represented millions of human soldiers preparing for ground combat operations on the organic factory worlds of the Devourer home system. Sergeant called Private Ji-hoon Park from across the cramped compartment. Do you think we will survive this? Does not matter, Kim replied, adjusting his armor seals. What matters is making sure the Devourers do not survive this. The casual acceptance of death that characterized human soldiers continued to disturb the alien observers. Colonel Ha had explained during briefings that human military training emphasized mission completion over personal survival, but witnessing it in practice remained shocking. All units, Admiral Shin's voice echoed through every ship in the massive fleet. Operation Cleansing Light is now active. Execute with extreme prejudice. The attack began simultaneously across thousands of star systems. Human fleets emerged from hyperspace near Devourer positions and immediately began their assault. There were no negotiations, no warnings, no attempts at communication. This was extermination warfare at its purest form. At the home system, the first wave consisted of unmanned kamikaze ships loaded with antimatter warheads. Hundreds of vessels accelerated toward the organic factory worlds at significant fractions of light speed. The Devourer defenses responded with their usual absorption techniques, but the sheer number of simultaneous attacks overwhelmed their capacity to process threats. First wave impact successful, reported the tactical officer. Estimated 30% of factory capacity destroyed. Colonel Ha's assault battalions followed immediately behind the kamikaze wave. Thousands of heavily armored soldiers in powered suits dropped toward the surviving factory worlds. Their mission to plant biological warfare devices directly into the Devourer organic infrastructure. Sergeant Kim's squad landed on what had once been a planet but was now a living organism the size of a world. The surface pulsed with alien life forms that immediately attacked the human invaders. His soldiers responded with weapons designed specifically for close combat against devourer organisms. Plant the charges and move to the next target, Kim ordered over the communication system. His squad worked with mechanical efficiency, placing biological weapons that would spread through the planetary organism and destroy it from within. Private Park took a hit from a devourer defensive organism, but continued his mission without hesitation. The armor held, and he completed planting his assigned charges before moving to support his squad mates. All charges placed, Kim reported, requesting extraction. Negative, came the reply from command. Continue to secondary targets. Extraction will occur when mission parameters are complete. The squad moved deeper into the organic factory, fighting through increasingly desperate devourer defenses. They were not expected to survive the mission, and they knew it. But every biological weapon they planted would continue the work of destruction. Long after they were gone, throughout the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human forces struck with coordinated precision. The self-replicating drone swarms activated simultaneously, beginning to consume devourer masses and convert the material into more weapons. Biological warfare agents spread through devourer populations faster than they could adapt. Admiral Shin watched the tactical displays as reports came in from across the galaxy. 97% of known devourer positions were under attack. The few that remained were already infected with biological weapons that would eliminate them within days. The devourer collective intelligence is fragmenting, reported Dr. Heinsu Park from the psychology section. We are detecting complete breakdown of coordination between masses in different systems. Estimated time to complete elimination? Admiral Shin asked. Based on current biological weapon spread rates, 6 to 8 weeks for total extinction. High Christarch Velyan observed the systematic destruction with a mixture of awe and horror. You are not just defeating them. You are erasing them from existence. That was always the plan, Admiral Shin replied. The Devourers made this an existential conflict. We are ensuring that only one side survives. The battle in the home system continued for 18 hours. Human forces pressed their attacks with relentless determination, accepting casualties that would have broken any other military force. When Colonel Ha's assault battalions ran out of ammunition, they used their weapons as clubs. When their powered armor failed, they continued fighting with whatever tools remained. Sergeant Kim's squad held a critical position against overwhelming odds, until their biological weapons could complete their work. One by one, his soldiers fell, but they maintained their position with discipline that seemed inhuman to alien observers. Final transmission from Sergeant Kim's position, the communication officer reported. Mission accomplished. Factory organism is collapsing. Throughout the home system, the organic factory worlds began to die as biological weapons spread through their massive structures. The devourer masses that had seemed invincible weeks before now writhed in agony as their own biological systems turned against them. All major targets eliminated, Colonel Ha reported from her command ship. Beginning systematic sterilization of remaining structures. The final phase involved ensuring that no trace of devourer biology could survive. Human forces used weapons that broke down matter at the molecular level, leaving nothing that could potentially regenerate or evolve into a new threat. Within days, reports arrived from across the galaxy. Every known devourer position had been eliminated. The biological weapons had spread through their populations with mathematical precision, causing complete extinction within the predicted time frame. The war is over, Admiral Shin announced to the combined fleets. The devourer threat has been permanently eliminated. The celebration was muted. Humanity had achieved total victory, but at a cost that sobered even the most hardened military. Veterans, entire worlds had been sterilized to prevent any possibility of devourer survival. Weapons had been created that could potentially target any species in the galaxy. High Christarch Velyan addressed the reformed Galactic Council weeks later, his crystalline form dim with exhaustion. The devourer crisis is ended. But we now face a new reality. Humanity has proven itself to be the dominant military force in the galaxy. Ambassador Sora Park stood to address the assembly. You asked for our help because you knew what we were capable of. The threat is gone because we did what was necessary, not what was comfortable. What happens now? Asked Zixmore of the Moreland Collective. Now we ensure that nothing like the Devourers can ever threaten galactic civilization again, Park replied. Human military bases will be established in key systems throughout the galaxy. Our monitoring networks will watch for new threats. Our response capabilities will remain active. The alien representatives realized they had traded one existential threat for another. Humanity had not demobilized after victory. The war infrastructure remained in place, ready to respond to future challenges with the same ruthless efficiency. Are we your allies or your subjects? Velyan asked quietly. That depends entirely on you, Ambassador Park replied. We fought this war to protect civilization, not to conquer it. But we will never again allow civilization to face extinction because of inadequate defenses. Fleet Admiral Shin oversaw the establishment of